Hey, this is Jim in Broadfield. You see, we are being joined today by Glen, our own workflow sales specialist or sales engineer, and Steve McKenna from SNS. Hey, Steve, how are you?
Hey, Jim, how are you doing? Thanks for having us.
Doing awesome. Listen, for the pre-show today, I want to introduce the dealers that are tuning in and joining us to the Digital Joy live platform that we have going here at Broadfield Live. Throughout the show, I want to encourage you to answer the survey questions that come up on the side and to check out the documents that we have uploaded there. In addition to the normal documents that we usually have, we have a NewTek remote storage brief available for you there to download. This is prepared by NewTek. It goes into a little more explanation of what the NRS solutions are, and it reinforces what Steve and Glen are going to talk about today. Before we go into the show, I do want to kick it off the way I do every week with a nice beer from our local brewery right here in Mineola. This is the Farm Squeezed Juicy IPA. Glen, you usually have something good for the pre-show. Do you have something to drink today? Here in Mineola. Glen. No, Glen's not hearing me. Steve, can you hear me?
We can now. Now I can hear you.
Now you can hear us. So, Glen, do you have something to drink for the pre-show?
I do. I brought in the last one I had in the fridge, my Trinity Cider, Dallas, out of Deep Ellum. It's a Feeling Thorny. It's a blackberry cider. Nice.
Very nice. Steve, how about you? Did you bring something to drink on today's show?
I gotta say, because it's my first liquid lunch, guys, I wasn't totally sure. I wasn't 100% confident, so I'm gonna stick to coffee, but we can pretend there's something more in it if you want to.
Totally fine. We'll call it Mexican coffee, maybe a little tequila in there, a little Kahlua, whatever. Hey.
Whatever. Yeah.
Sounds good. So, listen, there's no reason for all three of us to talk about NewTek NRS storage solutions, and quite honestly, there's not much I can bring to the conversation. So I am very happy to turn over the show to these guys who understand the technology and can really talk a lot more about it. Glen, why don't you take it away from here?
Perfect. Thank you, Jim, and cheers. So, thank you, Steve, for joining us. We got a kind of loaded show, so I'm going to let Steve go through a lot of it. I'm hoping we can get it done quickly enough. We were going over some of the things that came out of IBC, and there's a couple things I hope at the end we get a chance to talk about, kind of give our dealers an idea of some of the things that are coming. But, you know, NewTek remote storage, we've had it for a while. It's a product that I think just goes underviewed. And I think what we really want to do here is with our dealers to get you to realize is that, you know, this is something, if you're selling a TriCaster, just add it. It's going to make, once you see everything it can do and once you see how much it can bring to your clients, it's just a no-brainer to add and solve so many problems. And, you know, we'll talk about it later on, but you have a chance to be a hero, and because there's so much in this product. So, Steve, take it away.
Yeah, thanks so much for having us, Glen. Thanks, Jim. It really is. I was actually on a webinar about NDI with a dealer a few months ago, and even Chris Burgos at NewTek was saying this is the most unheralded, piece of what it is, and it really is, just like shared storage is, the center of so many people's workflows. But it becomes very much a workflow enablement device. It's not just that storage. So while the product is called NewTek Remote Storage, the NRS, we're actually going to look at it as the NewTek Remote Server because of all the other things it does here. So we're going to go ahead and hop in on this side, and we'll kind of run through. So the NewTek Remote Server, the NewTek Remote Storage, is powered by SNS. So SNS has been making shared storage for a very long time. We've been doing this for 23 years. Traditionally, it's been post-production, VFX, ad agencies, schools who are teaching production applications, all of those different things. But now with NDI, we jumped on this bandwagon really early. We saw the power of NDI. We saw the convergence onto the IP network. So you're not dealing with SDI everywhere. The ability to really just open this up because the networks were there. It was just about being able to transit video over them, right? And so we developed an NDI plugin very early on, and that's truly what makes an NRS and separates it from the SNS EVO. Now, even if you have both, they can talk to each other. But today we're going to really work on the NRS and what makes it unique. One of the things certainly is that entire workflow, right? It's not just a hunk of storage. It is all these other tools that SNS makes for our own products, with the addition of the NDI functionality to tie it into broadcast and production, and quite frankly, even AV on this side. So it really fits everywhere for your clients. So amongst the software that comes along with the NRS is our share browser, which is the media asset management software that's going to allow people to tag and search stuff. Slingshot, which is an automation engine. This can help us do file backups. It can even do file transcodes on the box, again, alleviating a lot of the resources from other devices that would normally be necessary on the network. And then last but not least, Nomad. Nomad is our remote workflow utility that, because we make all of this software in-house, we were able to really adapt to the pandemic when it came out quickly. Nomad was released 2 days after California issued the first shutdown order in the country. So no SNS, no NRS clients, no NewTek clients were left in the lurch when they all had to run home on that side. So let's kind of take a look at this from a workflow perspective. How do we use this? Shared storage has always been and maintains itself kind of as the central hub of a workflow, right? It's where the files go. It's where we access the files from. And what you can see here is we've got a TriCaster, we've got an NVG1, we've got a graphics engine, but we also have editors. So as this convergence of IP comes into play, it's not just about, hey, I got storage in the middle and I'm gonna get all this software. It's also about bridging two traditionally very separate pieces of video production, and that's production and post. Right? We have what we're doing here. It's live. It's great. We get to engage with the client. But in the post side of this, we may take this video and chop it up into little sections. We may chop it up into learning modules. That happens on the post side. So with the storage now being the center and actually able to record that NDI video to itself, it eliminates the need for your clients to start shuffling drives around and moving things in kind of an old world way on that side. Here we can see, even in the absence of a switcher, the NRS can be of benefit because it's using, again, its processors to record these files. So even if I just have a bunch of NDI cameras or a bunch of NDI sources, they could be scan converters during a live production or a live meeting on that side. I can catch all of this and record it to the central location, which is the same location that then post-production or the creative team is going to pick up from and go from there. So it creates this central thing that can do so much. Next, I want to review a couple of common questions we get from dealers and from customers. As I just said, do you need a TriCaster to benefit from NRS? No, you just need NDI on your network. Any NDI anywhere is going to benefit from this because you can control what triggers these records. It's really exciting to take, and we'll take a look at that a little bit in more detail here in a short live demo at the end. But how many cameras can I connect? Well, the NRS can also act as a virtual switch. As I said before, you don't need a switch at all, because we always want to separate that production traffic, right? We always want to separate the video from the IT on that side. With an NRS, you can direct connect up to 28 NDI sources. Those could be workstations, those could be cameras, those could be TriCasters. They can be whatever. And we don't have to add a network switch. We don't have to go transit the IT network. It can create its own production network by virtue of this virtual switch compatibility. Now, as I said before, this is a workflow device, right? It's a server. It happens to have a lot of storage. It happens to be really fast. But let's talk about what it takes to build a workflow. Traditionally, SDI, NDI production has been focused on playing that video, streaming it out, getting it to broadcast, getting it to air, and capturing it for use later. The NRS takes care of the capture, but then it also takes care of, again, that back end. It takes care of the media asset management with Share Browser. So we can search these files, we can tag them, we can find them later, we can repurpose them. It's got to be fast. It's going to be recording and playing video at the same time. Pound for pound, the NRS, much like the SNS Evo, is the fastest video streaming shared storage system on the market. We've got to be able to back this stuff up. What happens if a building burns down after the event happens? Well, that's handled through the Slingshot automation, again, built in. And all of this software comes at no per seat license fees. So for you guys on the dealer side, we don't have to worry about how many users, are we managing licenses? Do they renew their license? Is something going to stop working? All of this can happen through automation. We can deliver out to numerous locations, including TriCasters now. So the NRS can actually deliver through Slingshot and through its automation to different TriCaster DDRs simply based on where you save a file. It couldn't be easier for your customer. So let's hop in now to a little bit to the product line. Like, what does that look like? What are the different shapes and sizes, right? Because all of the NRS products come with all of this software, again, in unlimited fashion. So we have the NRS 16. This is kind of the flagship. This is the big boy. It comes with 96 terabytes of storage built in, but again, all the software and more processors, so it can handle more streams of NDI. It can play out more streams. And we'll get to just a minute kind of where those lines are to help you guys design which product is right for your clients. Now, it's important to note, as we said before, with Glen here from Broadfield, Glen's an expert in this stuff too. So if you ever need help, you can certainly reach out to him. We can accommodate live demos for your clients through Broadfield or through NewTek to kind of show them the value as well. So if you're having a little bit of trouble, but to Glen's point, you should really, anytime you're quoting anything with NDI, have an NRS on that quote. It's going to make the customer's life easier today, and it's going to prep you for what they may need in the future without necessarily have to sell them more stuff. It's just a little more training.
Steve,
so we have that
Steve,
16.
if I could interrupt you for 1 second, before you get into the products, we are using this interactive format with our dealers that are tuned in watching us. And the question came in asking if the NRS allows for real-time growing NLE files.
It does. It absolutely does, as long as you have the NDI tools and the NLE.
Okay.
So like tools for Premiere or for Avid Media Composer. Absolutely. It does that.
Awesome. I promise not to interrupt you again. I just thought this was a perfect spot. As we get more questions coming in, we're going to save a little bit of time at the end of your presentation. So let's get into the NRS products, and then I'll come back on later on to ask you some more of these questions as they pop up. Thanks, Dave.
Yeah, perfect. Thanks, Jim. Yeah, no problem at all. Interrupt whenever. Then we have the NRS 8 next. So this is not a full server depth. This is a 19 inches, the same depth as a TriCaster. Comes with 8 discs in it. It's 48 terabytes of storage natively. Comes with a couple of ports of 10 gig on it. And this can fit into a fly pack. And what's cool is if you have an NRS 8 and an NRS 16, you can actually ship the NRS 8 out to the site, to the shoot. The clients can do that. And it will talk and index itself and report back to the NRS 16 back at a facility. So now I can have all these different field teams with data just automatically getting captured back to where the post team is. We don't have to worry about it. It's all just automated. And then if you need ultra portability, we've even got the little NRSD for your clients. This is incredibly affordable. It comes with 24 terabytes of storage and some 10 gig. But again, all of the software features we're talking about are available in all of these boxes in unlimited fashion. So it's just the value add is immense on that side. Both the NRS 16 and 8 are also scalable, so we can grow over time as your clients grow. You don't have to worry about, well, now we have to bring in this other thing. You can say, hey, we're going to put more of this on, and away we go, and the system actually gets faster and larger at the same time.
And this slide I love, because this blows me away. Is everybody wants the NRS 16, but when you look at what the desktop unit can do, 25, 30 frame HD streams in a single box is phenomenal.
Yeah, and think about all the infrastructure it saves. Glenn, we don't have to worry about all these extra encoders and all this extra rack space and making sure it all talks to each other through the switch and making sure ITV lands off the switch. Because again, we can direct connect all these sources if we have to. Not to say that you can't add a switch later and expand and scale the environment over time. But I mean, think about what it takes to record 55 independent ISOs, whether those be cameras or scan converters or monitors or whatever the case may be. And when you think about that, now let's step forward into more and more people getting into 4K and full NDI. Think about what it takes to record 15 streams of 4K 60. Think about that, what that means for your athletic clients, for your schools. I can just throw 4 NDI cameras into a gym. I can throw 5 or 6 around the football field, throw a few in the pool, and I don't have to worry about anything other than getting some standard IT network cabling to the right places on that side, right?
Yeah. And a teaser to the the IBC announcement, which I'm psyched, is you can now set this up to trigger from a Stream Deck, which means somebody can just push a button and all of a sudden record the gymnasium with a simple thing like a Stream Deck.
Yeah,
So
that little box, sits in your gym, and you can have the coach or student or whoever just say, we're recording this game now, press 4 buttons and we're good. I don't even have to know how a switcher works necessarily, which is a much more specialized skill. So to that point, how do we trigger these records? Well, if you've got a TriCaster, trigger them in the TriCaster. You can just use that native interface. You don't have to learn anything else. If you don't have a TriCaster, you got a Stream Deck. That's cool. You configure it in the Stream Deck interface to program your buttons. But even if you have nothing, you log into the server and you can see all your NDI sources and independently start and stop any stream you want. So I don't have to be in the gym to record the basketball game or the volleyball game or whatever else is going on. I don't have to be at the pool. I can just log in from the broadcast control room somewhere on campus and do my thing. I can even log in from home.
Right. You could log in from your pool.
Exactly. I don't have to be at that pool. I can be in a different pool. My pool smells less chlorinated. It's outside. I actually don't have a pool, but you get the idea. So yeah, from anywhere. And that I think is what's really important coming out of the pandemic as well, is those words from anywhere has become really common when we talk to clients. So now let's talk about some of the software stuff. We've kind of gone over the hardware. We've gone over what it can record. Let's talk about what we can do in that workflow element as well. So first amongst that is the share browser. And we try to get everything into these NRS acronyms. So share browser allows you to navigate, review, and search content. We can search not only what's on the NRS, but if you have multiple TriCasters, let's say you're in a district with a bunch of schools, I can search every TriCaster independently from the district office. Share browser will actually index any other storage on the network that it can see. So whether that's NRS, whether it's an SNS nearline Evo backup somewhere, or just some simple IT server that we're using for backup, Share Browser is going to put all of those assets right at your fingertips. So you can actually control where those files are going to other storage as well. And it has a few different interfaces. It also has a web app that are going to allow people to log into a web browser and search proxies of that content and create collections that we call bins. But now, how do we make it easier on that post-production team? We've been talking about convergence of that stuff. Well, with NRS, what we do is we take Share Browser and we put it in their edit application. So I can open Share Browser as a panel inside of Premiere or After Effects or Resolve or Final Cut. And everything that I've tagged and searched or collections I've created in the form of what we call bins can just all be dumped or imported directly from that app. You can even mount the storage from inside of the production application. So as an editor, I don't have to ever leave Adobe Premiere. I don't have to leave Resolve. It's all there. Maybe my assistant is going to handle the desktop application and the ingest and all of that. But for the dealers, again, this makes it simple. It makes training simple. It makes your customer better able to adopt. For those of you who have ever had to sell an asset management software like an enterprise MAM, you know those sales they're long and they're complicated and they never quite work the way they're supposed to when they go in day one. With Share Browser, here's the interface. It's easy. There are my files. They're organized in folders. I can add tags. I can make collections of files in different locations and bins. I can timestamp. I get all of that harvested system metadata over on the right. If I want to search by frame rate later, I can do that even if I never tag anything. We're getting that EXIF data from the camera. We're getting all that inherent file data. So we've talked about how many streams the hardware can record, but now the question is, if the post guys are doing the same stuff, how many streams can it play back? And so on an NRS 16, notice you can get 17 streams of ProRes 422 HQ 4K simultaneously across that network. So think about the power of that in that growing file Jim just mentioned. I can be recording 30 ISOs or 15 ISOs at 4K 60, 30 at 35 at 4K 30 on that side. But then I can also have editors doing that growing file and cutting while we're going. I don't have to wait for that file to finish. And if I want to, using Slingshot, which we'll see here in a bit too, I can even transcode those finished files into a more edit-friendly codec like Apple Certified ProRes, using the processors of the box, leaving those workstations free. So NRS, being a workflow appliance, is also about getting more out of the equipment that you already have, not having to buy dedicated transcode machines or ingest machines. Do it all. Just do it in one spot.
So you went from ingesting native NDI to playing out ProRes or DNX or or something else, and then also transcoding to another format, all from the same storage, but it's not just storage.
Right. And quite frankly, all at the same time.
Yep.
So I could be delivering some of those lower res files off to an editor, to an FTP site, to a website, whatever. All going on simultaneously in the background, transparently to the user. So now all I have to know how to do is be an editor or be a switcher operator, be great at being live. Let the computer do the other stuff.
Yep.
And so an idea to that is kind of, here's the fundamental premise. The arrows make this look a lot more linear than it actually is, because it should really be two-sided arrows on every slide, right? Yeah, you can record video from the TriCaster over the NDI, to the NRS, leaving it on the NRS, but you can also grab files from the NRS using the Share Browser web app. So I can take a bin and grab that stuff and bring it right to a DDR. So now I have access to my entire content library during a live production. I'm not limited to just what I've loaded onto the switcher. As we see below there, someone can be editing. That can be a growing file, to Jim's point. In fact, with NDI tools in the production applications, they can be playing back that NDI file directly off their timeline during the production. Okay. So all of this now is just bi-directional, it's open, it's easy. So back to our point from a minute ago, how many devices, right? At the end of the day, on the engineering side for the dealers here, what can we do? With a switch, you can do anything. You can go infinitely. But without a switch, you can do up to 28, not 24. That's a little older slide there on the NRS 16. Notice you can do 12 10 gig ports. So I could have 12 10 gig devices, 12 TC2 elites, all with 10 gig doing their thing, just directly connected to the server, and the server passing that connection through to the house network to allow things like Active Directory integration, whatever the case may be, so that IT can manage permissions. But all in one device.
No, that is slick. I mean, you don't have to worry about a separate network switch, plug it in, be done.
More importantly, post-pandemic, you don't have to worry about production.
Waiting for
it. Yeah. We sold a lot of these at the end of last year with people who were waiting on switches just because they could direct connect and we had the parts and everything was good, which is another reason, obviously, distribution is great. So now let's talk about Slingshot. Let's talk about that automation aspect of things. So we can come in here, no repetitive strain. That's our NRS here. I don't have to remember to back up my file. I don't have to remember to upload it. I don't have to remember to run it through the transcode step. Slingshot can be used to send files to other types of disks, like we talked about. Just like Share Browser can index other disks, Slingshot can interact with them on the network. That can include transcoding, Apple Certified ProRes. Some of this stuff, I highly encourage you guys to check out the SNS IBC release, because we do have a lot more transcode options than we did even a few days ago. This can also help with data lifecycle management. But what's so important to understand about this is the ease of use, right? Because that's one of the things that NewTek specializes in. It's one of the things we try to specialize in. What Slingshot really is the REST API. And for those of you on the dealers, especially on the engineering side, when you think of an API, it conjures images to me typically of command line interfaces, scripting and coding and all sorts of stuff that the average customer isn't really going to be able to grasp. With the Slingshot API, though, we've wrapped a UI around it. So it's very easy to set up those automations. It's very easy to just go into and click a button and say, hey, if it's a MOV rep file, I want it to be ProRes. If it's more than 2 years old, I need it to go somewhere else. That somewhere else could be an LTO tape archive. It could be another set of disks, like I said before. More important, and certainly more modern today, it could be the cloud. So Slingshot has native hooks into every major cloud, every popular cloud provider at this point. Amazon, Microsoft Azure, could be Google Cloud, could be Dropbox, could be Wasabi, could be Backblaze. So even this product allows you guys to really present it to any customer, no matter how technologically advanced they are. It could be a Fortune 100 company that has a huge Amazon instance that they have to back stuff up to. But it could also be a more boutique post-production facility that receives footage through Dropbox, right? And Slingshot's just going to see that Dropbox. It's going to download it for your client. It could be they haven't considered remote delivery of assets at all, but now you're providing them a way to do that, and you're enhancing their business, which is really what so many of our dealers and integrators are great at, is how do we get that value add to our customer? What else is here? So now, last but not least, we're going to pop over to Nomad. So Nomad is that remote workflow solution, right? This is how we're going to be able to work from anywhere. So whether that be, I've got the server, the NewTek remote server out with my field team right now, and I would need to be able to search the stuff that's back at home, whether it's two of them talking to each other, or whether it's just back to my aspirational pool that I don't have yet, but maybe one day. If I just want to sit by the pool and edit, or I'm going to get on a plane. So the Nomad remote solution works with every major production application. It can be tied in with some of the panels and stuff we have in different NLEs like Premiere, and After Effects and stuff. But what it allows for really is using those share browser proxies, using the proxies that the system is naturally creating for its own database for searchability, even for offline files. Like you can search and watch a file that's in the cloud. It's allowing those users to download them, but it's repurposing them as path-based proxies. So what's coming down there is we're renaming all those files to match exactly how they look on the server. So once they're linked, once the project is linked to the server, I can just hand project files. I can just email Glen a project and he's linked to the same media I am. He runs it through and gets his proxies so that he can do an offline edit. Now it's important to know with Nomad, you do have the choice. It doesn't have to be a proxy. It could be source. If Glen's color grading, you might want to download the source. But what it does is it eliminates that internet variability. I'm not trying to stream media over the internet. I'm copying files. The internet's good for that. It's not so great for streaming high-res editorial content. So it gives us that balance of now that I'm local with those proxies, my power can go out. I can keep editing. And so what that network might look like for you guys is something like this. You've got your NRS, again, at the center of the workflow, because your shared storage is always the center of the workflow, wherever that may be located. In this particular case, it's at somebody's studio. So we've got some people working in Illustrator and Photoshop. We got some people working in Premiere and Resolve at the bottom there. But on that box, we see Slingshot transcoding files and indexing them and using the share browser database to keep those paths right. And then we see on the left there, those remote users, those people at home that are just working over there. They're downloading their proxies. Their project files are automatically syncing back up. If they ingest new media, it's going to automatically sync back up. That's one of the IBC releases that Glen was alluding to as well, something called Nomad Delta. It's going to keep all of these files in sync. And it's going to do so without any ingress or egress fee the way we would have going in and out of a cloud. It's happening over a secure VPN connection, which you can provide through your NRS with the SNS VPN that goes along with that, or you can set up your own. It doesn't really matter. Many of your clients may already have a VPN coming out of the pandemic. That's one of the big things too, guys. NDI is not proprietary. Nothing with the NRS is either. It's optimized standard network protocols, not proprietary protocols. And by the way, Nomad was shipping 2 years ago. So I've seen a lot of remote workflow solutions that have come out over the last 2 years. Some of them have even started to ship. None of them have been perfect in my experience. This is all ready to go today. You can sell it tomorrow. And so that's kind of the end of our slide deck. I'm going to hop over now and we're going to take a look real quick at what actually makes an NRS an NRS, right? Because remember, share browser, Slingshot, Nomad, those are all software, part of the SNS software suite. And they come along with the NRS. But what's going to come in here that makes this so cool is this. There's our little NDI card, right? That's what comes with the NRS. Seems simple. But when I log in now, I can see every NDI source on my network. This is how I would trigger this from the server itself. I can click on any view. I can see what my input is here. Come back to our multi-viewer. I think I have to log back in. I'm probably timed out here. Yeah, here. So we're going to log in real quick. And now I can see, again, every source. I can click to them. I can see what we got. I can initiate records. I've actually been recording for over 24 hours right now. And notice I can independently start and stop any of those sources. So give me the 4 that are in the gym. Give me the 4 that are at the pool. Give me conference room A for your corporate clients. This has so many implications. NDI is so broad, even for like a traditional, what I would think of as AV, right? Because we can also play these out using NDI. It can even be, hey, that bank of TVs at the hospital. So if you've got hospital clients, this could be for digital signage control. It could be anything, which is what makes it so powerful and really makes it so cool. So I'm going to go ahead, guys. Jim, you cool? We'll switch back to our title slide there. Actually, you know what? Let's take a quick look. There's that share browser web app I was mentioning. Here's the share browser Premiere panel, which looks the same as the Resolve panel. And there's the share browser desktop app where you can see I just have a bunch of volumes over here or bins that are collections of volumes. So you can see how easy this is. And I can just drag and drop. There's not a lot of learning curve to this on that side. So with that,
I think the cool thing too, just I can't reiterate it, is that you're buying a server to ingest NDI, but all the features that you mentioned, Slingshot, Nomad, share browser, that's all in there. So from a dealer point of view, even if your customers aren't even thinking that yet, even if they just need, hey, I need to record a bunch of NDI streams, great. Here's the solution. When they call you in a few months and say, hey, we need to do some asset management, guess what? I already sold you that. It's in there. It's included in what I sold you. No upcharge, no added fees, no user fees. That's huge.
Yeah, and what's so great, I think, for the dealers too, is you get to come in and train them on it, right? You get to turn it on. So there's still recurring revenue for you. You come back, but you get to be that, as you said at the beginning of the call, Glenn, the hero.
Yep.
We already thought of that for you. We knew that one day this would be a thing. So whether it's remote workflow or transcode deliverables out to the cloud, hey, IT noticed we have a server, we gotta talk to them. They want to know how we're backing it up. You can say, we've already got that covered.
Yep. So Jim, did we have any questions from the users?
We do have some questions, and before we go into the questions, that's one of the things that I really wanted to clarify with our dealers. Once we start getting into the remote storage solutions with the NewTek NRS solutions, at that point in the sale, you're probably going to already be working with Glen. Glen has that great relationship with Steve. Broadfield is your source to make all of this happen so that we can help you help your customers be successful in not only the remote storage solution, but also a multi-site solution. Steve, one of the things you alluded to in your presentation is the pandemic really required that these live producers, post-production editors, content creators, and even contributors are all setting up shop in all these different places. And SNS has really done a great job through the storage solutions and the utilities like the share browser, like Nomad, to really give these remote contributors all the access they need.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, it's this. I wish I could tell you we saw the pandemic coming and we had this code ready, and all of that, and we were just this amazingly foresighted, kind of thing. But really, what our ability to react comes from is there's nothing in the NRS that's again powered by SNS that we don't make in-house. Right. We make our own software. We build our own hardware in-house. We QC it. We check it. That quality control is really important. And that gives us a unique ability to respond to unexpected things that may happen in the world. I hope everyone uses Nomad going forward because they have to pick up their kid from school, not because we have a global pandemic that shuts down our economy. Right. But regardless of the reason that you're using it, you can work from anywhere. And again, having multiple NRSs like those multi-site ones you talked to about, Jim, ShareBrowser will create a central database for all of those assets. Yep. So if you do have multi-site, you can certainly permission it off. Not everyone necessarily needs to see everything, but someone can. And you can actually manage all of those devices from a single admin user interface as well. So I could be sitting, I don't know, Basel, Switzerland right now, managing 20 NRSs that are in 3 different studios across the globe, all from one interface. I don't have to go bounce into, am I logged into that one?
Perfect example. Steve, where are you today?
I'm home today. I'm in St. Louis.
So you're in St. Louis. Glen is in Texas. I'm here in our studio in New York. So this is a perfect example of how simple our own production is. And we're coming at you live today from 3 different locations. Imagine how easy that happens throughout the rest of the world and how necessary it becomes once you're upping that game a little bit to have the remote storage and everything else in place. Steve, I did promise our dealers an opportunity to get to their questions. Sure. And it's funny, this question is obviously a result of one of the poll questions that we put up. When you were talking about the post-production solutions, it seems that a lot of our audience are working with customers who are using either Avid Media Composer or Adobe Creative Cloud. There seems to be a good split between those two. Yep. Of course, we have a couple of Mac guys joining us that always have to talk about Final Cut. But the question that came in...
Man, Final Cut's making a comeback. I'm telling you. I've talked to a lot of people recently with Final Cut.
You heard it here from Steve first. The real question, though, is about Edius. So can I use Grass Valley Edius with the NewTek NRS or with the SNS storage solutions?
Absolutely you can. Like
Okay.
at some level of files a file. In fact, well, we don't have that share browser panel inside of Edius. One of the things we do have that's really cool is we have for NRS is what we call our project locking mechanism. And that's for non-network aware software. Like for the Avid users out there, you guys have the Avid collaborative workflow, right? It's great. It does its thing. It locks your bin so no one can overwrite your stuff. But Edius and After Effects, for instance, or Photoshop, those aren't network aware softwares. So multiple people sharing a project off of the server could, in theory, overwrite each other's work. They could make a mistake. One person gets the save, the other one doesn't. Well, with NRS, you lock files by their extension. So you can eliminate the possibility of an error. And it works very much like from an icon perspective, from a visual perspective. It works a lot like what your Media Composer users are used to. There's a little green lock that appears if you're the right user. There's a grayed out lock with the username of the person who has it next to it. So you know who's working on that file, which is also handy for post-production supervisors. Yeah, it looks like they're working. But even more important, there's a messenger service. I can right-click on that file and say, "Give me the file,"
cool.
and send a little pop-up over to somebody. Hey, the editor wants this now. Can you let them in there? But even if I open it, I can open it read-only. I just have to save off our version. We just take away. We don't limit what you can do. We just take away your ability to make a mistake.
Excellent. And that goes to all that media management capability that Glenn talked about earlier. Not only are you getting the storage solution, but it's really a configurable storage solution with all those media management tools included.
Exactly. And for your Media Composer clients, the NRS actually can be used alongside project and bin locking, even in the absence of like Avid branded storage. So it can mount as that file system that Media Composer is looking for. So you can still have your collaborative workflow too. You have your cake and eat it too.
Awesome. The next question, I think I'm going to need both of you guys to help answer. Steve, I'm going to ask you to answer it from a technical point of view. And then Glenn, you and I can go into the sales perspective. The question is, can I sell the NRS to someone who doesn't use a TriCaster?
From a technical perspective, absolutely. Again, any NDI on that network. You can purchase it, through Broadfield, through NewTek, wherever. But yeah, if there's NDI anywhere, I've got people using NDI in some very interesting ways. We have a vet school that has no TriCaster that just uses it to record operating theaters. Right there's no other NewTek thing in there other than the NRS.
And look, from a Broadfield perspective, we're your source for NDI products. We have Panasonic PTZ cameras. NewTek's own PTZ cameras. You could set up NewTek NDI cameras without a TriCaster system, and you can use the NRS to bring all that stuff into. Bird Dog, obviously. PTZ Optics, NDI cameras. All of these different NDI sources can play into an environment. You might be using a cloud control software. You might be doing something else. And now the NRS allows you to bring that all together and kind of store it all together.
Yeah,
now, Glenn, I'm going to ask you. I'm sorry, Steve, what was that?
I was going to say, now with what NewTek did with NDI 5 and NDI Bridge, you can really do that from anywhere in the world too. So, I mean, 55 ISOs, guys, that's multiple office locations for a lot of the corporate clients out there. But I'll leave it to Glenn to get into the sales part.
One in every state and at least a few territories too.
There you go.
Glenn, I'm going to let you answer from more of a sales perspective. NewTek obviously has an authorized dealer program. We would need to get our dealers involved in that in order to transact and allow them to be able to offer the NRS stuff. But at the same time, if our dealers are working on a sales opportunity where the NRS is that solution, these are the integrators that NewTek wants us to bring to the table, right?
Yeah, no, this is perfect. I mean, NewTek does have their authorized dealer channel. This may require, a one-off if you're not a NewTek authorized dealer, but it's a conversation that is definitely worth having and can lead to more. But there's definitely, whether it be just for recording or working with other things that are NDI native, there is a play for SNS in a NDI world, even if there's not a TriCaster. So, a problem I would love to have you solve, help you solve. It's just going to be, if you're already authorized with NewTek, easy. If you're not, we may have to jump through some hoops, but simple hoops to get you authorized for a one-time authorization.
Awesome. Guys, thank you so much for joining us. You did a much better job than I ever could have imagined doing on this presentation. Steve, thank you so much. I do want to leave with some parting words for our dealers. You know Broadfield is your source for all NewTek products, including the NewTek NRS remote storage solutions. We hope through this relationship, anything that we can do to introduce you to the SNS team and to help you get set up in offering remote storage as the solution for your clients who are asking about the remote workflows, the multi-site storage solutions, and even the live production to post-production workflows that these guys talked about today. Give us a call. Our job here at Broadfield is to make your life easy. So definitely reach out to us. Give your Broadfield sales team a call. We'll connect you with Glen. Glen can connect you with Steve. We're all going to work together, and we're going to be at the NAB New York show coming up this October, where we'll be able to show off some of this technology and introduce you to the guys at SNS as well. So thank you for joining us. We will see you every Thursday at 1 p.m. Eastern Time. Bookmark the site, broadfield.live. Scroll down to the bottom of the page. You can see the archive of today's video and all past videos. And you can tune in here every Thursday at 1 p.m. Eastern Time to see this week's show. Until next week, cheers. Thanks, guys.
Cheers, Jim.
Broadfield Distributing is a value-added distributor of live production, streaming, video editing, and storage products. We only sell to resellers. We are always looking for new dealers. So call us at 1-800-634-5178 or email sales@broadfield.com. You'll like doing business with Broadfield because we make it easy to do business.